Ladies and gentlemen, maybe you heard that train in the background there. I'm here with a good friend of ours. I have a very special treat for you today on the HammondCast show. I'm sitting with our friend Steve KUSHMAN, who is the president of CHRS, which stands for California Historical Radio Society. And we're here in the studios thanks to Steve's great work of the old radio KRE in Berkeley, California. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing good, John. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here. It's good to have you here. And whether you know it or not, you're sitting in a very historically significant place. If you look right behind me, you'll see a picture of Wolfman Jack on the wall. And the reason the Wolfman Jack picture is there is because that in 1972, when George Lucas was looking for a radio station that was a throwback to the late 50s and early 60s to film his scenes for American Graffiti, he found this place. So without doing much work, the Wolfman came in here and Richard Dreyfuss came in here, and that's where these scenes were filmed. I'm sitting right where the Wolfman was sitting in that picture.
Wow, I enjoyed that movie. I remember that very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big honor to be here in these studios, which you're lovingly restoring, and it's a major project. That when did you take over as the president of CHRS?
Oh, I've been president for about 12 years. They call me president for life. You know, every time I want to quit, they go, no, please don't. Anyway, and we. The CHRS, California Historical Radio Society, is an educational nonprofit, and we were founded in 1974 to restore and preserve and present radio and radio history. So for pretty much the life of the club, we've been a group of radio collectors. And I read in their first journal in 1974 to stay tuned because a month later they would announce the home of the CHRS Museum. And that was 30-some-odd years ago. And there had been no active search in that 30 years, so we've been mostly a swap meet club that met in parking lots, and periodically we would do an exhibit or a recreation of a radio event, and that would fulfill our educational obligations. But in the end of 2003, we had an opportunity to acquire this building, and this building was one of the first buildings built specifically for broadcasting. In the old days, in the early days of radio stations were in hotels, or they were in department stores, or in churches, or, for example, the KRE was in a mortuary for some years, Chapel of the Chimes, which still exists here in Oakland. And then in the 30s, when radio became pretty much an independent business, they decided that there needed to be broadcasting facilities. So this facility was built in 1937, the part we're sitting in now. And if you look behind me, you'll see a transmitter room with some meters going up and down on the other side of the glass here.
Right.
And that room has had an active transmitter going and broadcasting AM radio since 1937. So which makes it, 71 years.
So we're sitting here in the RF field right now.
You're okay.
That tower outside this building is broadcasting.
Yeah, the tower is broadcasting. This building still has 2 active radio stations working in it. 1400, the old KRE, which is now KVTO, Voice of the Orient, and in the building in the back is the old KFRC transmitter, which is now KEAR, Christian Radio 610, and they're both transmitting from the same tower.
610
broadcast also.
I grew up listening to 610.
It's a little different now. It's Christian radio now. So we took over in about 2004. I keep saying that. I'm back in the last century all the time.
Yeah.
And we got a 10-year lease, rent-free, to restore and occupy this building, to restore it to what it was, and to maintain the building and the grounds. And for the for the 9 years or 10 years that this building was vacant, except for the working transmitters. The people all moved out, and an engineer would come over like every couple of weeks and check on the equipment. The building was pretty much vacant. So it was a graffiti magnet. The grounds were overgrown, and since we've taken over, it's a nice clean building. We've restored the inside. We'll restore the inside even more, and we're now in the process of getting an appraisal, and we're in negotiations with the owner to buy the building and the land for our organization.
Wonderful.
To create this CHRS museum in perpetuity.
Wow. Well, this is a work representing hundreds and thousands of collective hours of all your members and volunteers, and you have an annual event. Besides the annual event, you have other events too, but I've been very lucky and happy to participate a couple of years now on the annual fundraising event, where you have a great auction, where it's an incredible opportunity to buy historical radios for very reasonable prices, and that all goes back into helping to keep this project going. And then besides that, you have real legends of radio on the scene, and these guys present a program that's just really entertaining. It's been a lot of fun. So who are some of the actual broadcasters that you've been involved with the CHRS?
CHRS is involved with a couple of organizations we work very closely with. One is the Bay Area Radio Museum, and it's a virtual online museum where CHRS pretty much concentrates on the equipment of radio, the radio receivers, and now we're into radio station equipment. The Bay Area the Bay Area Radio Museum, which you can find online at bayarearadio.org, represents the personalities and the programming of radio.
And that's David?
And that's David Jackson's group. And David Jackson promotes also the Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame. And when our big Studio A gets refurbished here, that becomes the 20 by 30 foot studio that was built in 1938 by the same engineers that built the RCA exhibits in the World's Fair. When that gets done, that studio becomes the brick and mortar home of the Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So we work with David very closely. We also work with the Broadcast Legends. And the Broadcast Legends are a group of people. I am one of them. There's my little pin.
Yeah.
Who have been in broadcasting at least 25 years. And we all get together to share stories of the old days and just pretty much enjoy the camaraderie of the old days in radio and TV. And we work very closely with Carter B. Smith, Ken Ackerman. Those are the kind of names that are in the Broadcast Legends.
And posthumously, you also award some.
Yes, the Bay Area, the Radio Hall of Fame posthumously awards. Puts people into the Hall of Fame who are historically significant in early radio,
like my old friend Al Jasbo Collins.
Al Jasbo Collins, and going all the way back to Doc Harold, who is one of the heroes of CHRS, because Doc Harold was broadcasting radio on a regular basis starting in 1909. And he was doing this out of his electricity school in San Jose.
Wow.
And he had regular broadcasts that went up and down the coast that young people experimenting with crystal sets were listening to.
That's the very beginning of radio.
That's the very beginning.
And you have here the real beginning of radio. You have actually Marconi, who invented radio.
Well, yes, Marconi had a very significant role in the development of radio. And this is my phone. We're just going to let it ring.
Yes, okay.
And it always goes off at the wrong time.
Different type of broadcast.
We actually have in our museum here at least one piece of equipment that was made by the Marconi Wireless Company.
Wow.
That was used for ship-to-shore communications in the very early 1900s.
Wow.
Some of the things that we were going to do with this building, it's going to become the California Historical Radio Society Museum. where we will represent radio of all different ages, beginning with the earliest in the early 1900s and before, going up through the 60s and 70s until we get into modern stuff. We will also represent television. We have a television gallery in our building here.
Wow.
We're bringing back our big 20 by 30 foot studio. It's been cut up into smaller production studios, and we're restoring that to the big room it was because, as I mentioned before, it's a great room, and we're going to bring that back for live recording work again.
Wow.
Bands that want to rehearse can come in here. Bands that want to record in here, and different kind of groups. We have, we'll be able to record on tape. We'll be able to record digitally, or here, Jennifer, is a lathe. We'll actually be able to cut a record for somebody that wants to work here.
Well, this is really exciting, Steve. You know, besides all that, which is so much. I mean, for me personally, it's very exciting because I'm an old radio freak myself, and growing up in Berkeley, California, the Bay Area has a rich history of radio. I grew up listening on a crystal radio set to KEWB, you know, and KDIA and
KYA.
and KYA, yeah,
sure.
Yeah. And we had.
Do you remember with your crystal set that when you walked around the house looking for the best place to attach your alligator clip, that the best place was on the dial stop of the telephone? That's where I always got the best signal.
Mine pretty much lived by the steam radiator, and
that was another good one.
And I listened in bed at night. That was a good one. I actually went to sleep with the earphone in my ear every night. You know, I could remember the playlist back then was like Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini,
there you go.
Big Bad John, and Leader of the Pack, and all that stuff. You know, but besides all that great stuff that you just told us about. You've been having some workshops with some great radio technicians and people who know how to repair and build radio and restore all this stuff. One of your guys, Scott Robinson, a great guy who has been able to show people how to do that. So you've been teaching some young people how to do that too?
Absolutely. Our main objective in the California Historical Radio Society is to preserve the history of radio, to preserve the technology of radio, and this technology, it's fading away. The average age of the members in our society are always 60 and above, and they're taking all this great knowledge that they have with them away. So our goals are to try to interest younger people, to try to take the technology and the information that these people have and to impart it on a younger audience, to try to perpetuate this importance of radio and radio history. So we actually teach classes in tube radio repair, vintage tube radio repair to our members.
Wow.
We actually have radio history sessions. We have guest speakers here who are influential in radio and radio history. And we also have the Jim Maxwell Memorial Reference Library, which is a library that we inherited that's 900 boxes of books and periodicals about the communications industry that go back to the turn of the 20th century. And we're creating a research library here so people can come in and do early radio research, which is still very popular. So with all these educational components, we hope to foster this interest in younger people. Our goal is to bring a bunch of school kids through here as many times as we can. And if we can get one or two of those kids interested in this ancient and primitive technology, which is so important, and it was the foundation of what we use today, of this thing ringing in my pocket.
Right.
It all started here to end up here.
Absolutely.
If we can get two of those kids interested in this technology, then we've done our job.
Right on.
So that's the goal, is to impart this knowledge onto the young people.
Well, it's a beautiful mission statement, Steve, and you are the man. Nobody could be more articulate and impassioned about your work here, and it's been a big honor for me and a pleasure to know you since we got to know each other and to be able to come down here and participate occasionally whenever I can. And I want to encourage everybody out there, our listeners and our viewers, to right away go and check out California Historical Radio Society online on your website, which is CaliforniaHistoricalRadio.com. It's long, but once you put it in there, you can bookmark it and click on it anytime. It's a great website. You have a newsletter to the Signal.
Yes, the Signal that comes out.
And photos and stories and all kinds of contributions. And the Bay Area Radio Museum from David Jackson, who's a member here.
And also we deal with the broadcast legends, remember them.
Right.
And we want to encourage people, if they have old radios or radio equipment that they don't want to see go to the landfill, we are most happy to preserve their radio and radio equipment for them. And all those people with rich uncles, we want to buy this building, so we need your donations.
Right, so bring it on down here. Bring all your great old radios down here to go to the real radio people. This is the place. This is like the radio church almost, you know. If there is one, this is it.
It is. So, we're very, very passionate about what we're doing here, and radio has touched so many people's lives throughout history in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
It's a very, very, very popular project.
We went to Russia. We went to Moscow, Russia, and I played jazz concerts there with musicians who learned how to play American jazz by listening to the Voice of America broadcast, you know.
Okay.
So it's really doing the job at spreading the music and the message all over the world, and beyond the ionosphere and the stratosphere. It keeps traveling out into space. So we never know where the radio signal is going. But this big tower here, whenever you pass by the radio studios of KRE on the old Highway 80 coming by Emeryville and Berkeley, and you see that big tower, you'll know that it's attached to this place where we're talking to Steve KUSHMAN, the president of CHRS, California Historical Radio Society. Before we get out of here, Steve.
Yes, sir.
What can you tell our listeners on KYOU Radio?
Well, KYOU should tune into our website at CaliforniaHistoricalRadio.com, and KYOU should remember that we are a great repository for all your extra radio equipment, and KYOU are encouraged to donate what you can to help the California Historical Radio Society succeed in its mission to preserve radio and radio history.
Right on. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you, John.
All right.